Translator, Nintails. Editor, Dark Gem. When Chinmu stepped into the forge hall, the scent of heated metal and sparks filled the air like drifting embers of battle. Before the blazing furnace stood Su Shenghua, clad in a worn apron meant to shield his robes from the flying sparks. Yet the once bright garment beneath had long since been scorched and darkened, its former elegance now resembling nothing more than a ragged cloth stained by fire and toil. At the anvil, Xu Shenghua was forging a hairpin. The black gold beneath his hammer had already endured 1,000 strikes. With every blow, the metal grew thinner until it resembled delicate gold paper. Only then did he fold it again and again, shaping it with patient precision until the graceful outline of a hairpin emerged. Accessories crafted by such a method bore the finest vein-like patterns within the metal, a texture treasured by the noble ladies of the capital. In truth, Xu Shenghua's name had already spread quietly through the circles of craftsmen within the imperial city. Many divine arts practitioners of the Six Directions realm had come seeking his aid in forging spirit weapons. At the same time, numerous nobles arrived requesting rare and unusual ornaments, hairpins, bracelets, and other curious weapons disguised as adornments. Divine arts practitioners of the Six Directions realm needed skilled hands to forge the spirit weapon that was born from within their divine treasure. Because of this, the mastery of a forging expert was of utmost importance. Xu Shenghua possessed a naturally keen mind. Whether it was forging a sword, spear, or an intricate spirit weapon bound to a practitioner's divine arts, he could adapt his technique with countless variations. The weapons he forged harmonized perfectly with their owner's cultivation and abilities. Human Emperor Qin, please sit in the shop first. I will join you once I finish this hairpin. Xu Shenghua noticed Qinmu's arrival and called out toward the inner room. Yanzi, the human emperor has come. Please attend to him for me first. Qinmu stepped into the shop with a relaxed smile. It's fine if you just call me Cult Master. When you call me Human Emperor, it only reminds me that you and I once stood as enemies. Jingyan emerged dressed in the plain garments of a village girl. The luxurious robes she had once worn while following Xu Shenghua from high heavens had long been set aside. Carrying a pot of tea in both hands, she invited Qinmu to sit. The tea she served was simple. When Qinmu had first met Xu Shenghua, he had been offered the finest tea of high heavens. That tea, Green Destiny, had been the best Qinmu had ever tasted. Yet the cup now placed before him held only the most ordinary leaves steeped in hot water. There is no longer any good tea left. Cult Master Qin, please forgive us. Jingyan's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she poured the tea. We finished the Green Destiny tea last month, she murmured softly. Qinmu took a slow sip and nodded. Plain tea suits me just as well. How did you manage to purchase this shop? Young Master originally owned a house in the capital. We sold it in order to buy this smithy. Jingyan paused briefly before continuing. Sister Yulu could not endure such hardship. She found an excuse to return to high heavens. Now only I remain with young Master. Qinmu gestured politely, inviting her to sit as well. A warm smile appeared on his face. You are a good maiden. Just then, Xu Shenghua lifted the curtain and stepped inside, wiping his hands with a towel after washing away the soot and metal dust. He hung the towel behind the curtain and approached the table, sitting down beside Qinmu. Without ceremony, he poured himself a cup of tea and drained it in a single gulp before pouring another. Jingyan instinctively moved to stand, but Xu Shenghua raised his hand. There are no rules here. You are the mistress of this smithy. Just sit. Hearing those words, Jingyan could only remain seated. Qinmu's eyes flickered faintly as he smiled. Brother Xu, how goes your daily life? Xu Shenghua sighed deeply and shook his head. It is not very good, yet it is strangely fulfilling. He looked at the teacup in his hand. I never realized how difficult it is to earn money. Back in high heavens, I never once worried about wealth. But now I finally understand the true value of a great abundance coin. He glanced at Qinmu and continued. Brother Qin, you once paid a great abundance coin for 10 bowls of noodles. That was pure waste. With a single coin, one could buy more than 100 bowls. Qinmu blinked in confusion. I'm not very sure how much a great abundance coin is worth either. I rarely lack money, so whenever I go out to eat, I simply pay with one. You have never experienced poverty. Xu Shenghua drank several more cups of tea before releasing a long breath. The money I've earned these days is still not enough. Give me some time. In about 2 years, I should be able to repay you. Chinmu waved his hand dismissively with a faint smile. It is a trivial amount of money. I'm not in a hurry. Linger will remember the debt better than I will. He leaned forward slightly. I came today to invite you to observe a ceremony. The Sunshot Divine Canon has been completed. Xu Shenghua froze for a moment before releasing a quiet sigh. You spent 2 months designing and constructing a divine cannon while I can only forge spirit weapons inside this humble smithy. He paused thoughtfully. 15 days ago, I sensed you ignite the furnace twice. That must have been you testing the cannon's frame, correct? That's right. Chinmu finished his tea in one swallow. I mobilized the strength of the entire empire to forge the Sunshot Divine Cannon, and I did not charge a single coin. I already have more money than I need. If I had demanded payment, even the emperor himself could not have afforded it. He rose to his feet. Come, let us take a look. Xu Shenghua stood and removed his apron. Yanzi, come with us as well. Jing Yan nodded, and the three of them left the smithy, walking toward the outskirts of the city. When they arrived at their destination, a colossal spirit weapon stretched before them, occupying 66 hectares of land. At the center of the immense cannon battery floated a gigantic eyeball-like structure, the Divine Eye, suspended between towering light-gathering forks. Hundreds of divine arts practitioners moved across the cannon battery, measuring and adjusting various components with meticulous precision. Xu Shenghua and Jing Yan walked closer and raised their heads, their eyes filled with astonishment as they gazed upon the towering structure. It was almost impossible to believe that Chinmu had spent only 2 months forging such a terrifying spirit weapon. Naturally, the cannon was not Chinmu's work alone. It was the culmination of wisdom gathered from every algebra expert and forging master across the Eternal Peace Empire. All their knowledge had been combined into this single creation. Yet, even among them, Chinmu's contribution was the greatest. Without his design and his revolutionary improvements to forging techniques, the craftsmen of Eternal Peace would never have been capable of producing such a heaven-defying artifact. Chinmu had pushed the Empire's craft of forging forward by an entire century. The Emperor himself had arrived, accompanied by the civil and military officials. High officials, nobles, and countless common citizens gathered around the cannon battery, eager to witness the activation of the Sunshot Divine Cannon. Even village chief Hermit Qing Yu and many others had hurried over to witness the moment when the divine cannon would fire. Pill furnace inspection normal. No cracks found. An official from the Ministry of Works shouted loudly. Formation markings inspection normal. No breaks detected. Runes inspection normal. Cannon frame inspection normal. Light gathering forks inspection normal. Divine Eye inspection normal. One report followed another. Shan Yushin glanced toward Chinmu, who nodded slightly after each confirmation. Finally, Shan Yushin raised his voice. Number 1 pill furnace ignited. Strength test. Maximum firepower. Moments later, an apothecary shouted from beside the furnace. Number 1 pill furnace has reached maximum firepower. Results normal. Number 2 pill furnace ignite for test. Number 2 pill furnace maximum firepower. Results normal. Xu Shenghua watched the testing process unfold and was utterly stunned. He murmured quietly, Cult Master Qin, when will I ever reach your level in forging? My smithy now feels unbearably shabby. Qin Mu quickly tried to comfort him. Do not worry. Everyone climbs to the peak step by step. I too had my difficult days. Really? Xu Shenghua asked with suspicion. Chinmu pondered briefly before shaking his head. No, soon after leaving the village, I had already become famous throughout the world. Xu Shenghua fell silent for a moment. Then he said slowly, Cult Master Qin, if you keep comforting people like this, one day someone will beat you to death. However, Chinmu continued calmly, when I lived in the village, I picked up the iron hammer at the age of 5, and I studied painting under Grandpa Def. His expression remained perfectly indifferent. You have only recently begun forging. You cannot imagine how much effort I poured into it during those 10 years. Xu Shenghua nodded thoughtfully. Overlord Body truly cannot be achieved without hard work. Your advice has benefited me greatly. At last, all 56 furnaces reached maximum firepower. In an instant, the runes carved across the base of the Sunshot Divine Cannon erupted with blazing light. Countless formations activated simultaneously. The enormous cannon battery slowly rose into the sky as terrifying waves of power radiated outward, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. Energy from the 56 pill furnaces surged like raging rivers into the light-gathering forks. There it condensed and transformed into four enormous beams that drilled directly into the center of the divine eye. Deep within the eye, gears began to rotate. Their speed increased faster and faster. Suddenly, the sound vanished. The divine eye, 240 yards across, seemed to transform into a hollow void. Formation after formation within its structure activated in succession. The black gold, black iron, divine gold, and countless divine materials used in its construction disappeared from sight. In their place remained only a divine eye radiating brilliant light. The eye was closed. Grrk! The massive eye rotated slowly atop the cannon battery. The wind generated by its movement roared like a storm. Yet the pulse emanating from the eye itself was even more terrifying. Even powerful practitioners at the level of a cult master felt fear stir within their hearts. Cult Master Qin! Standing atop the cannon battery, Shan Yoshin bowed respectfully. The preparations for the Sunshot Divine Cannon are complete. Qin Mu rose and turned toward Emperor Yanfeng. Your Majesty, please. Emperor Yanfeng inhaled deeply before leading the civil and military officials upward onto the cannon battery. He spoke solemnly. Supervisor Qin, you have labored for 2 months. This first shot should be fired by your hand. Qin Mu acknowledged the command. Shan Yoshin presented him with a jade plate. Circulating his vital qi, Qin Mu activated it. The jade plate burst forth with dazzling light, its radiance forming a 3-foot-wide screen that displayed the surrounding scenery. Qin Mu lightly touched the glowing surface. The divine eye rotated in response. He adjusted its direction until the enormous eye aimed toward the sky. Then Qin Mu tapped the jade plate once more. The eye suddenly opened. A beam erupted forth, tearing apart the heavens above. The sky trembled violently as a massive rift appeared. A dark scar spread across the firmament as the heavens were ripped open. The beam vanished instantly. Moments later, thunderous rumbling echoed from beyond the sky, as though 10,000 bolts of lightning had detonated at once. A gigantic tear remained in the sky, revealing a hollow void beyond. Only after a long time did the heavens slowly begin to mend themselves. Xu Shenghua's heart sank deeper and deeper. No one in high heavens could possibly withstand such a cannon. Even his own master, the Jade Sovereign, and the other 3 sovereigns would not survive an attack from the Sunshot Divine Cannon. This weapon had already surpassed the boundaries of mortal warfare. It was a weapon meant to slaughter gods. My money was not wasted. Emperor Yanfeng gazed at the slowly healing sky and muttered softly, Imperial Preceptor, it is a pity you are not here to witness this. Far away on the prairie, the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was leading the army back toward the Empire. Suddenly, he raised his head and saw the tear in the sky. His heart trembled violently. Cult Master Qin, you have finally completed the weapon to slaughter gods. Back on the cannon battery, Qin Mu withdrew his vital qi. The light screen produced by the jade plate vanished. One by one, the pill furnaces extinguished and the formations ceased their operation. Slowly, the colossal Sunshot Divine Cannon descended from the sky. Qin Mu raised his head and gazed upward thoughtfully. Since it is called the Sunshot Divine Cannon, perhaps I should try shooting at the sun once? Everyone nearby shuddered. Emperor Yanfeng immediately snatched the jade plate from his hands and shouted, Supervisor Qin, if you destroyed the sun with a single shot, how would the people survive? Such a reckless idea deserves execution. A dissenting official among the civil and military ministers spoke up immediately. Your Majesty, a ruler must not go back on his word. Emperor Yanfeng turned his head slowly to glance at the man before waving his hand dismissively. I will certainly go back on my word. Then he added calmly, but since you fail to see the necessity of it, why should I keep you? Retire and return home. He then turned to Qin Mu with curiosity. Dear Minister Qin, how exactly do I operate this jade plate? Translator Ninetails, editor Dark Gem. To unleash the Sunshot Divine Cannon, one had to employ the jade plate held in Qin Mu's hand. Because the immense battery that powered the cannon was far too massive and unwieldy to be directed by ordinary means, Chinmu had crafted this peculiar control device to communicate with it. With the jade plate in hand, the enormous divine cannon would fire precisely toward whichever direction he indicated. This jade plate was, in truth, the heart and command center of the Sunshot divine cannon. Qin patiently instructed Emperor Yanfeng on how to wield the jade plate. Its operation was astonishingly simple. As a master craftsman of the highest caliber, Qin possessed the rare ability to reduce the most complex mechanisms to their most effortless form. Merely through this talent alone, he had already surpassed many renowned masters of forging by an immeasurable distance. Emperor Yanfeng carefully stored the circular jade plate away. Yet, after only a short while, he quietly took it out again to toy with it in his hands before reluctantly putting it away once more. Some time later, he secretly drew it out yet again and fiddled with it like a child fascinated by a new toy. Qin spoke kindly, "Your Majesty may try firing a single shot." Emperor Yanfeng cast him a look before replying unpleasantly, "One shot and the imperial treasury will be drained empty. I am not like you, spending money like flowing water." Didn't the crown prince return from the snow plains? He should have brought back quite a substantial amount of treasure, Qin replied. But even so, I cannot fire it randomly. The wealth of the imperial treasury cannot be squandered carelessly. There are countless matters within the empire that require silver. Which one of them does not need money? Emperor Yanfeng put away the jade plate again, yet only a moment later, Qin noticed him sneakily pulling it out once more. Qin could not help but shake his head. If Emperor Yanfeng never fired the cannon even once, he would certainly be unable to sleep peacefully at night. His mind would endlessly dwell upon the urge to try it. Yet reason would also restrain him, warning him that the Sunshot divine cannon could not be misused. Thus he would remain trapped between desire and restraint. Let him be, Qin thought quietly to himself. At that moment, several officials from the Department of Sky Supervision approached, carrying thick bundles of scrolls in their arms. Leading them was Huo Shanling, who greeted Qin with a respectful salute before speaking. "Supervisor Qin, earlier when you fired the cannon toward the heavens, our Sky Supervision platform observed a peculiar anomaly. Our department contains many scholars skilled in algebra, yet we would still like to invite Supervisor Qin to assist us in calculating the phenomenon." "What peculiarity?" Qin asked, bewildered. When the sky was torn open, the astronomical phenomena changed. Beside him stood Huo Jingling from the Department of Sky Supervision. He added, "The sky split apart, and the celestial patterns shifted before returning to normal once the tear healed. We recorded the angular deviations, but because our attainments in algebra are insufficient, we find it difficult to calculate the cause. Lord Qin, please examine these earlier star charts." He unfolded the charts and flipped through them page after page. Qin observed that the celestial bodies recorded by the Department of Sky Supervision each year followed a regular and predictable pattern. Their movements were extremely minute. This is the star chart after Lord Qin fired the cannon. Huo Jingling turned to the final page and pointed to the diagram. When the cannon fired, the sky darkened for an instant, and during that moment, the armillary sphere recorded the positions of the celestial bodies. At that time, the sun had shifted 1.75 inches. When the tear closed, the sun moved back to its original position. During the brief darkness, the other stars also shifted. However, at the location of the tear itself, there were no stars whatsoever. This is completely abnormal. In that location, there should have been 107 stars. Qin still looked puzzled. Could it be that the divine cannon's power was simply too strong, causing distortion in our vision that made the celestial bodies appear to shift? "That possibility exists," Huo Jingling replied. "However, the Department of Sky Supervision relies upon the armillary sphere. It is both a spirit weapon and a heavy spirit treasure. Our vision might be deceived, but the armillary sphere cannot be fooled in such a manner. The star chart engraved upon it moves in harmony with the celestial bodies in the heavens. If the star chart moved, then the stars themselves must have truly moved." But the most crucial mystery remains. Why were there no stars where the tear appeared? Qin heart stirred slightly as he probed further. "What you mean is, The officials exchanged glances. Huo Shanlin coughed lightly before speaking. Before performing the calculations, the Department of Sky Supervision dares not make guesses, nor can we bear responsibility for anyone else's speculation. Please forgive us, Lord Qin. These fellows truly enjoy speaking in riddles, Qin thought with a frown. He said aloud, most of the scholars with me are algebra experts from Dao Sect and Little Jade Capital. They are preparing to return to their respective sects soon. I cannot guarantee that I can persuade them to remain. Xu Shenghua stepped forward with excitement gleaming in his eyes. I also possess some attainments in algebra. Qin smiled. If Brother Xu is willing to assist, that would naturally be excellent. I shall go invite Dao Master Lin Xuan and Wang Muran. Jinyan immediately interjected, since my young master is helping, the 1,000 coins we are owed. Even without your help, I have no shortage of algebra experts here. Qin replied without even turning his head. Jinyan's face instantly darkened. Miser. Yanzi, do not be angry. In truth, I am also curious to know what happened to the sky after Cult Master Qin fired that shot. What he said is correct as well. With or without our help, it makes little difference to him. It is merely a matter of time, Xu Shenghua said calmly. Qin found Dao Master Lin Xuan, Mu Qingdai, and the other young experts. After gathering everyone together, Wang Muran asked, what is Cult Master calculating this time? Qin looked toward Huo Jingling from the Department of Sky Supervision. His eyes sparkled as he answered, an astronomical phenomenon. Dao Master Lin Xuan smiled faintly. Astronomical phenomena? Cult Master Qin has cultivated our Dao sect's Dao sword. The fourth writing of Dao sword itself is an astronomical phenomenon. With him present, what need is there for us? Qin shook his head. The fourth writing of Dao sword calculates normal astronomical phenomena. What the Department of Sky Supervision wishes to calculate is an abnormal one. Dao Master Lin Xuan and the other Daoists looked bewildered. There was a distinction between normal and abnormal astronomical phenomena. Huo Jingling explained the strange celestial changes his department had observed and continued. The movement of the stars and the disappearance of stars within the tier, this type of astronomical phenomenon is absolutely abnormal. It is as though the stars are hanging upon a curtain. Mu Qingdai blurted suddenly. Huo Jingling clapped his hands in delight. Exactly. It is as though they are all suspended upon a curtain. Lord Qin's beam tore through this curtain, causing the sun, moon, and stars to split apart toward both sides. The expressions of the young experts turned grave as they exchanged glances. The celestial phenomena were hanging upon the sky. Xu Shenghua raised his head and gazed toward the heavens, steadying his thoughts. He then asked, Cult Master Qin, what do you wish for us to calculate? Based on the displacement of the stars caused by that beam, we must calculate the height and thickness of the sky. Qin turned to the officials and asked, is this your intention? The officials of the Department of Sky Supervision exchanged glances and nodded. Lord Qin is wise, Huo Jingling said hoarsely. In the past, we believed the sky to be boundless, its thickness limitless. Yet that beam from Lord Qin made us realize that perhaps the sky does indeed possess a limit, both in height and thickness. The stars above may not be as distant as we imagined. Even the sun may be. He did not dare continue. Qin looked at the gathered scholars. What do all of you think? Though they came from different origins, followed different inheritances, belonged to different factions, and upheld different philosophies, they were all young people filled with curiosity. Every one of them raised their heads and gazed toward the sky. Dao Master Lin Xuan withdrew his gaze and said, if Cult Master Qin's beam revealed that the sky possesses height and thickness, then why should we not calculate it? Everyone nodded in agreement. We require the dates when the stars shifted in order to perform the calculations, Wang Muran said. My Department of Sky Supervision has records of every star, including the sun, Huo Jingling replied immediately. That makes things far easier. Everyone sprang into action at once. After a long period of calculation, the numbers were finally obtained. When they looked upon the results, their expressions turned grim and bewildered. I refuse to believe it. A Taoist from Dao sect suddenly leapt to his feet and smashed his 8 trigrams upon the ground, shattering them into pieces. I refuse to believe it, he shouted again angrily before storming away. The other algebra experts remained silent. Long Yu muttered to himself, "Impossible. We must have miscalculated. This is absolutely impossible." The Tao sect scholars felt their convictions crumble. They laughed bitterly. "We must have calculated incorrectly. The sky cannot be so thin. It must be wrong," Huo Jingling declared firmly. "That's right, it must be wrong," many others echoed. Su Shenghua slowly shook his head. "Can it truly be that so many of us calculated incorrectly? Everyone obtained the same numbers. The result must therefore be correct. The sky is precisely this high and this thick." "Impossible, impossible." Long Yu staggered away in a daze, nearly driven mad. Mu Qingdai felt dizzy. She squatted upon the ground before slowly sitting down. Qin gazed at the numbers they had calculated and sank into deep contemplation. The sky stood 10,000 miles high, yet its thickness was merely a pitiful 1,000 yards. Within that thin layer existed a sun, a moon, a galaxy, and countless stars. How could such a thing be possible? His mind began to crumble slightly as laughter burst from his lips. He laughed until tears nearly streamed from his eyes, sitting upon the ground while slapping his knee again and again. "Cult Master Qin, what are you laughing at?" Tao Master Lin Xuan shouted angrily while glaring at him. "Abandoned people." Qin laughed loudly while pointing at his own nose, tears of laughter nearly falling. "You are an abandoned person. You are also an abandoned person. And you are all abandoned people." Everyone looked at him coldly as his finger pointed toward each of them. When his finger finally pointed toward Shu Shenghua, his laughter abruptly ceased and his face became terrifyingly cold. "You are also an abandoned person." Shu Shenghua frowned deeply. If the sky was only this high and this thick, then not even a mountain could fit within it, let alone a sun, a moon, and countless stars. Yet above them existed the blazing sun, the bright moon, and the vast galaxy. There could only be one explanation. The magnificent stars, the blazing sun, the radiant moon, and the galaxy stretching like an endless river filled with countless stars were all false. They had been painted there. The sky was like a great seal covering their world, displaying a sun, moon, stars, constellations, and a galaxy that were all illusions. Within the great ruins stood the god-broken mountain range, where sunlight could never be seen. When night fell, darkness swallowed everything, and the stars and moon were likewise invisible. The people of the great ruins were people abandoned by the gods. Yet the living beings throughout the entire world were no different from the abandoned people of the great ruins. They too were abandoned people. Taoist Lin Xuan suddenly shook his sleeves violently and declared coldly, "I am not an abandoned person. Disciples of Tao sect, we are leaving. Return to the mountain." As he walked away, tears suddenly streamed down his face. Tao follows the nature, follows the fucking fake nature. The young Tao master raised his head toward the heavens and roared hoarsely. "All my years of cultivation were spent pursuing fucking fake nature."